Hello and welcome to BioRules video lessons. Today we are going to be talking again about cell respiration, but now we are going to have an overview. You have already taken a look on a previous class on glycolysis. You saw glycolysis in detail where we break glucose into pyruvates, and in that process we make a little bit of ATP. An overall of 2 ATPs are made. If you remember the glycolysis lesson, you remember that we use 2 ATPs to then make 4 ATPs, so the overall production is 2 ATPs. So glycolysis we see here in a fairly level of detail, but now just taking a look to see all the rest together, we are going to see what do we do after we have pyruvate, after we have done 2 ATPs with a glucose. So this will depend on what you have. So if we have oxygen, we are going to be doing something called aerobic cell respiration with oxygen, and we are going to be producing carbon dioxide and water. So this process here is very, very rewarding because we make a lot of ATP, something about more 36 ATPs. So very, 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 very productive. From a glucose in the glycolysis, we made 2 ATPs. Now we're making 36 more of them. Very, very good. However, sometimes we don't have oxygen. So in that case, we are going to be doing what's called anaerobic cell respiration. And there are 2 versions of anaerobic cell respiration here common in life. One of them happens in mammals, and actually many, many animals, even some plants and other organisms, which is called lactic fermentation that produces lactate. So from the pyruvate, we make lactate. And the other alternative is with some bacteria and some fungi, is that the pyruvate is transformed into carbon dioxide and ethanol. Ethanol is a 2-carbon alcohol. These 2 processes make no further yield of ATP. So nothing else is produced. Only the 2 ATPs in the glycolysis have been made, and the pyruvate is transformed into lactate or in carbon dioxide and ethanol. This process is called fermentation. The top one is lactic fermentation because it produces lactate or lactic acid. And the bottom one is called alcoholic fermentation because it produces alcohol, ethanol. Taking a look on everything together here, we see that glucose is transformed into pyruvate in the process of glycolysis. So we have here, this is glycolysis going on over there. In this process we make 2 ATPs. And if we have oxygen, then we are going to have the pyruvate going inside the mitochondria, going through the link reaction that makes acetyl coenzyme A, and then going through Krebs that is going to be making 2 ATPs, and then the NADs that have been produced all over the place in glycolysis, link, Krebs cycle, the NADHs, they are going to be used to produce many more ATPs, up to 34 here in the very end. So this here is aerobic cell respiration, but if you don't have carbon dioxide, so aerobic cell respiration produce CO2, produce water. If we don't have oxygen over here, then we are going to go, through the alcoholic fermentation in bacteria and some fungi, or lactic fermentation on the right here. This is an overview of respiration. So what we have here, this is from before. If we have no oxygen, glucose is transformed into pyruvate. This here doesn't matter if it's with glucose, with oxygen or no oxygen. But if we have no oxygen, then the pyruvate cannot be broken further into the mitochondria. So in that case, the pyruvate is going to be transformed into ethanol and carbon dioxide in bacteria and some fungi. And for that, the bacteria and fungi are going to be spending the 2 electron-rich molecules, NADHs, to be able to do this. So that means that the NADHs that could be used further in a mitochondria or somewhere that can make use of moving electrons, they are not going to be making use of that. They will waste those electrons to be able to transform pyruvate into ethanol and CO2. The same goes for the production of lactate. So on the right over here we have glucose made into pyruvate. We made 4 ATPs, we spent 2, so the overall production here is 2 ATPs. And then the pyruvate can be transformed into CO2 and ethanol in bacteria, in alcoholic fermentation, or it can be transformed into lactate, but for that we need to waste the NADHs that have been made over there. If we have oxygen, the same glycolysis here that produces 2 ATPs, the pyruvate will enter the Krebs cycle, and all the NADHs that have been produced all the way over here, the electrons are going to enter in the electron transport chain, and with oxygen, making water is going to be making many more ATPs. So this is comparison between aerobic cell respiration and anaerobic cell respiration. Okay, just an overview. We don't do cell respiration only with carbohydrates. So we do that with carbohydrates. So for example, glucose here goes into glycolysis, make pyruvate. Pyruvate goes into link reaction, make acetylcoenzyme A. Acetylcoenzyme A enters in the Krebs cycle and is wasted. We put all the CO2 out over there, and the NADHs are going to be used in the electron transport chain to make ATPs. However, if we don't have glucose, we can, for example, get glycerol. Glycerol is a 3-carbon molecule, and it goes straight in the middle of glycolysis and carry on from there. Fatty acids, on the other hand, they are broken down into 2-carbon molecules, and they are put there in the end of the link reaction in the acetylcoenzyme A reaction in the very end, and they enter the Krebs cycle and they make a little bit of ATPs. Proteins is a different thing. Amino acids, some of them we're going to be having enough carbons to be able to enter there in glycolysis. But some of them, they don't have enough carbons, so they enter here in the beginning or in the end of the link reaction. And some of them are even inserted in the middle of Krebs cycle to extract a little bit of energy. But we can extract energy doing cell respiration for proteins as well. The difference between carbohydrate cell respiration, fats cell respiration to the protein cell respiration is that in the first two, carbon dioxide might be produced, no carbon-based molecules are produced, and in the metabolism of proteins, we end up having ammonia, a nitrogen waste over here, and this stuff is very toxic, and we need to put it out. In our case, we transform ammonia into urea, and urea we are capable of putting that in urine. We are capable of peeing it out. So protein cell respiration is a little bit more tricky, especially because it produces a very toxic waste. Okay, so there we have it there. I hope you have enjoyed this overview on cell respiration. If you have doubt, just ask me, and now take your time to do the quiz, and I'll see you in another class.